us and what is going on with us and our finances at this time. So we really want to just hold a series of about 10 to 14 different budget forums throughout the county so we can tell our story, tell why we are where we are, what really changed, if anything, from 23 when we passed the renewal levy. The budget forum will be in 4 different segments. We're going to start with Lisa Paramore, our communications manager. She's just going to go over some nomenclature, some words, so we all have the same understanding when we are having this discussion going forward. 2, Lee Donatella, she is our CFO business manager. She's going to talk to you about our revenue, where it comes from, how much we receive from each revenue stream. Then I'm going to be the 3rd component, and I'm going to talk about our financial kind of pressure points and what has happened over the last 5 years, and some of the newspaper articles that have covered us. I'll hopefully be able to provide better context for you for what you've seen or read in the newspapers. So we have so first Lisa, she's going to talk home and community-based services revenue. It's going to be Lee Donatello. Then I'm going to be the 3rd component, and then we want to hear from you. What's on your mind, what your concerns and issues are, and ensure that we just all have the same information. There's nothing hidden. Everything is to be transparent and open and clear for all of us. So that's the plan for the day, and I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. So again, as Bill said, just want to make sure that we all have a basic understanding of some of the terminology and things that we're going to talk about, that Lee's going to talk about, and Bill. And so we know that we say waivers, even amongst our staff, that gets confusing. What's a waiver? So briefly just wanted to talk about what a Medicaid waiver is. So you can see up here, it's a funding stream that supports people with developmental disabilities so they can live and work in the community. So the thing that I know Ed Lewis shared with me, and he always reminds me, this green one up here, this is the key to helping you remember what a waiver is. A waiver waives the rule that Medicaid says you can only use Medicaid dollars to pay for services that are in an institution or care facility. So a waiver waives that rule so that we can pay for the services and supports out in the community, okay? So that's a really, really simple way to help us remember what's a waiver as we're going through that. So some of the things, services can include in-home care, transportation, employment, day program support, and more, okay? Down here, so in Ohio, these are called home and community-based services. And they are administered by local county boards of DD. So we do that locally, okay? We do that on behalf of the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. So that's where our service and support administrators come in, okay? They are mandated. It is a very lengthy, very stringent process. There's reports, there's timelines that they have to complete to follow this rule, to make waivers happen and make them happen legally as we are mandated. Okay? So the SSAs, their main responsibilities in this function is they assess the need as people are living out in the community. Okay? Then they write the plan. What does everybody need? So the person that's receiving the services, the guardian, the family, the support team, all is going to be familiar and be part of making that plan so we know what services and supports does that person need living in the community. The next thing they're going to do then is authorize the budget for making that happen. And finally, the SSA is charged with monitoring those services. At least annually, that's reviewed, but if the need arises, they will do it more frequently. Reassessing, re-looking at, as we all have life changes, so do people with disabilities. So that SSA will constantly be monitoring for any changes that need to take place. And they can rewrite that plan, they can make adjustments. So the critical thing to remember is that as long as that person remains eligible, that waiver is for their lifetime. For a lifetime. So we may have a person who gets a waiver awarded after they come out of school in their early 20s. And as long as they remain eligible, they have that waiver for the rest of their life. And as life happens and changes, those needs are reassessed as their life changes, as their health changes, as their needs change for a lifetime, okay? So why are waivers important? Okay, it helps people with disabilities live more independently and connected with our community, okay? It gives families some peace of mind when they know that they have some funding support wrapped around their loved one, no matter the age that they are. Without waivers, many people would end up in costly institutions or healthcare facilities, not at home, not in our community, surrounded by loved ones and a supportive team. And finally, most importantly, which is our mission and why we are here, waivers promote inclusion, dignity, and choice. This is why we have waivers and why they're so important. So next I'm going to turn it over to Lee, now that we kind of have a reminder and understanding of waivers, and she's going to talk a little bit further.
So I'm going to go over our revenue. And up here you see a graph for our estimated 2025 revenue. The largest piece of this pie comes from our real estate taxes, about $34.5 million. Moving on, federal revenue estimated for 25 about 8.6 million. So federal revenue is made up of a few different pots. One of the largest being targeted case management. So what is targeted case management? So as Lisa mentioned, we have our case managers, our service and support administrators. And the time that they spend every day working with our Medicaid eligible clients, they document. And what we're able to do is bill for that documented time. So that represents about $4.4 million estimated for 2025. Additionally, Medicaid administrative claiming, which is also federal revenue. What Medicaid administrative claiming, or MAC, is for those employees that do not case note, they are time studied by the state. And so what happens is the state does random moment time studies, reimburses us for a portion of the time that those employees spend on Medicaid related activities. Our state revenue, totaling about $4.2 million. This revenue stream is mostly made up of Ohio Department of Education. So we get about $1.7 million for school age, $400,000 for our preschools, and about $750,000 for transportation. Last but not least, we have other local revenue, about $3.5 million. Now, most of this revenue is made up of a reimbursement type, so not a true revenue stream, but a reimbursement. For an example, our employee health insurance. So the board pays up front for all employee benefits. It's deducted from their paycheck, and then internally we get reimbursed for that revenue. Also included under here that I'd like to mention is excess cost, which is for our school-age students. The school districts reimburse us for a portion of the cost it is to educate those students. So this graph shows, and this is based off of 2024 actual levy collection. So you can see the largest here is our newest levy from 2014, which generates about 24.1 million. And then our three oldest levies here from the 80s generates combined about 13.3 million. And this graph, we wanted to keep it simple. It tells our story. Our waiver match and administrative fees, $32.7 million, and this is 2025 estimated. And this is tied to the waivers that Lisa described before. And then everything else, all other expenses. So all other wages and benefits for all of our employees, everything related to the operation of our schools, transportation, service and support administration, every other department. So you can see how predominant our waiver match and administrative fees are for us. Next, I will send it to Bill.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about context and the ever-increasing need that we are seeing in our community. So back in 2010, we supported 3,185. Today, it's 5,006. If we just look at 10 years, 3,484 to 5,006, that's a 40, just slightly under a 44% increase in those that we serve. And where are those people coming from? There's two spots. We are seeing better and more early diagnosis. So we're seeing more people supported 0 to 2, and we're connecting them with the services they need. The other end, we are seeing people live longer, and we are seeing more people in their 70s, 80s, and even 90 than we ever have before. So we can thank medical technology. We can, babies that may not have lived 20 years ago, they're living today. And we're getting them there early, and we're making sure that they have vibrant lives by coaching moms and dads on how to work with their infants and toddlers that may have a delay. Something else happened here. It's going to be on the next slide when we go by age group. But Kristen's going to help me here. Eligibility was expanded also in early intervention. So prior to that change, we served regularly about 300 people. Now it's anywhere from 452 to 500 a month. So there was an eligibility. So the funnel that we saw just widened. So more infants and toddlers came in. Lisa talked about people on home and community-based service waivers. 2010 we had 969, 2015 1271, and then now we have 1944. So these are the people that have lifelong supports. Our commitment to them is for the rest of their lives. It is literally decades of responsibility to ensure they get whatever they need to live the life that is important to and for them. So you can see by percentage of people on waivers, it really peaked between 2015, the number of people, and there's a couple interesting reasons why that's the case. There was a significant effort from the Department of Developmental Disabilities during this 5 years to downsize the number of people that lived in intermediate care facilities. So they paid they issued state-funded waivers to to assist those who wanted to move into communities to do so. And we saw, and that explains this increase. So I think that's important to the conversation, and again, it's lifelong, and that explains our percentage increase. State-funded waivers, we do not pay for. The state pays that match. Next, here is by population. This is kind of just a snapshot in time. 0 to 2, 454. 50 to 59, 303. 60 plus, 427. That represents all of those people that are living longer, living hopefully vibrant lives as seniors. So, with a home and community-based service waiver, we are responsible for what is called the non-federal share of the waiver. So we pay today 35.5% of the cost of someone living in the community that has a home and community-based service waiver. The federal government pays the difference. But we are statutorily required to pay that match for the life of that person. So in 2010, it was 11.5 million. 2015, it was 13 million. 2020, it was 17 million. And look what happened in the 5 years from 20 to 25. It's jumped to 32.7 million. A massive increase. There's a couple explanations for this. First, there were 2 rate increases. The first one was a modest one, a 10% increase between 19 and 2021. It took the average direct support professional wage from $11.51 an hour to $13.23 an hour. That's what that small rate increase did. In 24 and in 25, there was a significant rate increase, and that rate increase was 38%. So it took that $13.23, which was the average direct support professional wage, and it took it to $18 an hour. The county board system put in an extra allotment across the state to make it $19 an hour. So the way that works, again, it's a snapshot in time. Everyone is on a home and community-based service waiver. The state paid up to $18. County board system paid $19. The nuance is every new person is that the county board then pays the rate increase. Does that make sense? So they do not capture any new person enrolled in 24 and 25 with state money. It comes from non-federal share across county boards when a new person is enrolled. So what we've seen from 2015 to 2025 is literally a 146% increase in our waiver costs. And most of it happening from 20 to 25. So we always, I don't know if you do, but I certainly do, hate talking about COVID. COVID is an impactor too. It has influenced how people spend their day, because what happened during COVID, people stayed home. They didn't go to day services. So what they did was, instead of going to a day service and having a ratio of 1 to 3, 1 to 6, 1 to 12, they had one-on-one supports. And those are more expensive, obviously, than attending or going someplace during the day. So this is an influencer because guess what? A lot of these people never returned, and they're still getting those one-on-one supports at home, living by themselves or with a roommate. So that has been an impactor of waiver match in addition to the issue of just the rate changing. So, July 25th, 2022. This is the slide we shared with the county commissioners saying that we needed a renewal levy in 23. And we made it very clear that we were going to deficit spend 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Very clear. And why did we ask for just a renewal? It is really important to the conversation. The reason we asked for a renewal, and likely they would only approve us for a renewal, is because, guess what? We had $60 million in cash reserve. And as you've read the newspapers in regards to property tax, people are tapped out. We get it. People are tapped out and do not want to pay any more property taxes. And we get that. This was the same conversation in 23, and the dialogue was, you can't ask for new money when you're sitting on $60 million. So we went for the 5-year renewal, knowing that we were deficit spending between $10 and $13 million a year through this levy cycle. So let's go to the next slide. Here is where we are today. Because guess what? When we went on the levy, we did not know about the rate increase, the second one, the 38%. And this has significantly influenced 25, 26, 27, and 28. If we would have known that there was going to be an increase, that could have changed the conversation, but we just didn't know. We're glad the rate increase happened because it did stabilize the direct support professional workforce. So please don't hear that we, the county board system and Governor DeWine and the legislature, we wanted collectively to do something to stabilize the workforce for home and community-based service providers. But we didn't know this when we asked for the levy, and we just readjusted our projection with this deficit in 33. So that's what we end with. So when we get to 29, with this amount, we're not able to make, it would be Q3 because it's on a fiscal year, match payment in January, February. So that brings us to the last 2 weeks. You're like, what in the world is happening here? I mean, there's newspaper articles, there's fires, there's everything. So, both symbolic fires and literal fires. So, what has happened? So, we have these budget forums scheduled. And we met with the county administrator, Lee Donatella, and myself, to share what we were going to share during the budget forums. We're going to share this. We're going to tell everyone why. We're going to say, hey, we're going to have to do some very unsavory things, and this is the precursor to it. And they said, okay, we get it. And literally made the comment, unless you'll let us go on, and I said it jokingly, please get this, I said it jokingly, why don't you, we'll do a replacement levy in November. And Brand, who we have a great relationship with, he stood up and he walked to the window and said, Bill, read the room. Read the room, you know. No one wants a property tax increase. And he goes, you serious? And Lee and I kind of looked at each other and said, yeah, we're gonna need new money either now or in 28. And if we wait until 28, we're gonna have to make some significant decisions with our schools. And what does that do? It transfers cost to school districts who are in the same boat. And our schools are critical and provide a critical need for the people with the most complex health situations and behavioral situations. So that was two Wednesdays ago. Friday, the Friday after that Wednesday, I'm sorry, I can't remember the date, Brant called about 5 o'clock on Friday and said, if you're serious, let's have a discussion. You put something in writing and we'll see what we can do. So I called Lee, she had already left for the day. She came back and we put a proposal together for a combination of taking a 1980, an 82, and an 88 levy, combine them, and reduce it to 2.65 mils. And that would generate $21.5 million. What we need to kind of stabilize where we are today. So we put that in an email. We had the golf outing on Monday that raises money actually for Citizens Who Care that pays for levy campaigns. Out on the course, I got a call from Brad. He said, commissioners are in if you're in. I go, we will be in. You'll need a special board meeting. We scheduled that for Tuesday. Was that the day after the board meeting? Yeah. Yeah, day after the golf outing. So we scheduled it, and you will hear that. It has to be a 24-hour notice. So we got a quorum, we scheduled it for Tuesday, and we put that before the first step in requesting a levy is getting a resolution of necessity, and that was approved by our board. Wednesday, the county commissioners needed to accept that resolution and pass it, which would require the auditor to certify the amount that would be collected. On my way up, the county administrator called and said, hey Bill, there's been a little change of heart. And I said, okay, they'll still pass the resolution. However, I think you're gonna have to pivot. And so a little bit of deer in the headlights, but we regrouped, and I'll tell you why. So the auditor ran the numbers and said, Bill, look at the numbers. If you do the replacement and reduction, it will cost the taxpayer $69.76 per $100,000 of value. If you withdraw that resolution and request 1.6 mil additional, that will generate $21.4 million. And I said, clearly we want to do what is less for the homeowner. So we went back and this is now Wednesday night. I'm calling board members to try to get a quorum. Got a quorum just like 5:57. The meeting was gonna be at 6 o'clock on Thursday. We didn't make it. We didn't get the notice in because of the tight time frame. So when you saw it in the paper, you know, hey, they missed the deadline, we did. We were trying to be quick, but I hurried. So we needed to delay that 24 more hours, and we had it at 4 o'clock to request taxpayers to put on a 1.6 mil levy, which instead of costing $69.67 per 100,000, it costs $56 per 100,000. So it is clearly cheaper for the taxpayer. So what will that do? What will that levy do for us? It's on this slide. Here we are, we anticipate we will end with 35.5 million. We will increase 26, 27, and we'll hit a high of 28 of 46.7 million, and then we'll start deficit spending again, down to 33. And that is when we would have to ask for another additional in 33 if everything stays the same. One thing I left out about the replacement and about the additional, they're continuous levies, so they'll never expire. And why put it on as continuous? Because we have a lifetime of support. Yeah, it's not like we don't know what our waiver increases are going to be, but we do know that they continue. Every one of these expenses continue for a lifetime. So that's our story today. We have a host of budget forums scheduled. We don't even care if just one person shows up. We want to provide the education to every single person that we can contact. We're gonna put it on our YouTube channel so people can listen and hear about this. Now for the final portion, just open it up for questions and concerns. Yes, Julie.
Can you explain how we get waivers and if we can change how we do it? Right, I know they're mandated, but you know, how many do we get a year? How do we get it?
Yeah, so home and community-based service waiver enrollment is based on a waiver list assessment. So if people are determined from that assessment to have an immediate need, we have to figure out how we are going to address that immediate need. We look first, can we do it locally? Can we do it with community services? Can we do it with respite? And then if we can, and they meet all the criteria for immediate need in it, we are obligated then to provide that home and community-based service waiver. So we watch very closely, obviously, and we budget, just so you know, $1.1 to $1.2 million new every year, knowing that the need is increasing. It's increasing, regardless, it is headed upward. So that's what we plan for. But there's not a way to say, you know what, Sarah, you know what, you have an immediate need, we're gonna give you respite for 2 weeks and then not. If she meets the criteria for a home and community-based service waiver, we are obligated to provide it. And if not, Sarah would have appeal rights to Job and Family Services and could appeal the fact that we assessed the immediate need and we're not meeting it. So there's a process for that. Very good question.
So essentially, we 1 year could get 20 and the next year get 200. I mean, that's a big difference, but I mean, depending on how many people are coming into the program.
True, true. But what we do have, we have history. We know about 100 new youth are coming out of school systems, and we know that they likely will need some type of home and community-based service waivers. There's actually 3. There's a level 1, a self, and an individual option waiver. 2 of them have a capped financial ceiling, and 1 does not, and that's the individual option waiver. Did that answer?
Yes.
Yeah. Other questions? Shelley?
Do you ever think the waiver count will ever level out or slow its growth? We just don't know.
We have not seen it. And to your point, and that was a question from the commissioners, hey, our population slightly going down? Shouldn't you see the same here? And theoretically, yes, but we haven't seen it yet. Yet. There should be a leveling off, and we should be near a peak for a county our size, what, 467,000? But we haven't seen it yet. You have a question? Other questions, concerns? Yes, Julie.
So, you had mentioned the $60 million in reserve. Is that something that we've used or tapped into already, or is it, are we able to tap into that if needed?
Yeah,
And
we
you
already
probably
have.
said it, but I missed it.
No. Yeah. So here's the 60 million in 23.
Mhm.
We've been spending more than we're bringing in each year.
Okay.
Yeah, between 10 and 13 million dollars a year. Yeah. So, yeah, we acknowledge that and we said, hey, this is gonna get spent down in 5 years. I don't even think the commissioners thought that was the case, did they? They're like, okay, but they really believe our numbers, just so you know. So,
Thank you.
so what's next? Tomorrow, we'll go to the commissioner's office, and believe it or not, it's the last day you can put something on the ballot. Literally,
Imagine that.
it is the 12th hour, it is the witching hour, if you will. It is the 12th hour. They meet at 1:30, it has to be there at 4, so I'm gonna be there. There will be a motion, a second, discussion from us. Hopefully they approve it, and then I'll take that resolution right to the Board of Elections to get it filed. So, in absence of doing that, we were looking at some very unsavory announcements in September. And I just gotta be honest and forthright with you in regards to that. So,
I mean,
yes.
I wanna understand, is there no other way you can get income? Because it's a killer for people who have
I know.
property,
Yes.
and I don't really know that this is gonna pass. Because in my neighborhood, it's mostly older people, and we're all living on our social security and so forth. And how they expect the homeowners to keep carrying the weight for everybody, it's too hard. And I don't know that this is gonna pass, because we've been talking in our neighborhood, and they don't trust, there's no trust anymore.
And hear you loud and clear. And we do have, this will be a monumental task of
Mhm.
pushing this rock up a hill. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And we will let the voters determine our fate. That's what it's coming down to. And we get it, we acknowledge it, all of that. And we know that there needs to be property tax relief for seniors and people with developmental disabilities. We acknowledge that. But for us not to ask would be to cut critical services.
Unfortunately, you're asking the employees even who own property, to absorb the
Yeah.
cost as well, so it affects everyone.
It does,
Yeah.
it does, it affects the businesses of Stark County as well. Yeah, it affects,
It's a vicious circle.
if you have property, business, homeowner, public utility, you pay these taxes. So, we know and we hear you loud and clear, and we want you to know as a homeowner, if this passes, that we will be stewards of those dollars. And we will look every place we can to reduce, and be stewards of the dollars that are passed.
But how did you have $60 million sitting that you did not use?
Yeah, great question. How did we get to 60 million? So COVID happened,
Yeah,
and so we did not get financial support from the federal government. But what we did get, instead of paying 35.5% for each person on a waiver, we only had to pay 30%. And that 5% jacked our reserve right up. So that's how we got to 60 million. Yeah, so our waiver match, let's see here. So, yeah, our waiver match in 17, yeah, instead of paying 35.5, we just paid 30%. So that's how we got to 60 million. Yeah, and that's a lot of money. Yeah, Pat.
Just curious if the other larger counties in Ohio are in similar situations and how they're handling it.
So, Montgomery County, just Google Montgomery County, they're in a fiscal crisis. We are not, but if we don't do something, we will be. They have reduced, all their services. Yeah, I just asked you to Google Montgomery County. Summit County, our neighbor to the north, very solid financially. They just passed a replacement levy 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's two.
2 years ago. It was to run them to 30/30 or 20/30. They can only make it to 28 because of this rate increase. Yeah, again, unanticipated. No one, we all applaud it, but it's the cost shift to us that was unplanned. There's something on the Department of Developmental Disabilities website. I can't remember, it's, anyone that's interested, I can show you, but you can look at the county board system, and where everyone's fund balance goes. It goes just like that. It looks exactly like this across all 88 counties. And where the reckoning is 27, 28, 29. So right now, the Ohio Association of County Boards, they have a fiscal sustainability committee that are making recommendations to legislature because this is not sustainable. It's just what is happening is not sustainable. It's not sustainable to you, in your neighborhood, or any one of us that live here. Also, Governor DeWine, he also has a committee that will have its recommendations, I believe, by the end of September on what to do with property taxes, because relief has to happen. So stay tuned, really.
So what happens if we are unsuccessful and we cut like everything?
Yeah.
And we still don't have the money? Then what does happen? I really don't know that answer.
So, I don't like to manifest negativity.
It's a reality here.
Yeah, it is a reality, okay.
I know, I'm sorry.
It is, no, and I can answer that. So if a levy wouldn't be successful, we'd reduce some of our critical services, and we still don't have enough money. There is a rule for that, believe it or not. It's called the hardship rule, and we would go through a series of steps where the Department of Developmental Disabilities and our county government would work together to pay our local match until we got out of that situation. So there is a hardship rule, and there are steps to follow. And again, just like anything.
Schools do that too, don't
What's
they?
that?
Schools do that when they go into a fiscal emergency.
They do.
The state comes in and, but everything's like, everybody's like,
So we're only manifesting positive.
No, I don't mean to be.
Yeah, no.
negative, but
Yeah,
the
it's reality.
realization-
But
studies.
Right.
It's not gonna stop.
Yeah, and it's just not us, it's school districts too.
Right.
Yes,
Hey, just wondering with the retained earnings or reserves as you call them, are you able to invest that money or at least gain interest on it while it's, things are,
so it sits in the county treasury and the county gets the interest, we do not.
okay.
Well,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah, but it's in statute, yeah, so,
Yeah.
it is in statute, yeah. So the county maintains the interest on all county pots of dollars. Yeah.
One other thing I would just like to point out, I mentioned to the last superintendent, H. Mike Miller, the last time there was a levy that failed. I think he diluted the public opinion with the issues. And what you have here is really nice, he did a great presentation and a great job of explaining it to us. But the problem is, our critics probably aren't gonna take the time out of their day. And the way that you get around that is by campaigning on one little girl at Southgate. You gaslight all of the issues. You have the voter with that picture in mind when they go to the ballot, and they can't say no to that little girl. And if we concentrate on the deficit and how things have went, aging caregivers, any number of those things is gonna be counterproductive. And you really need to focus the campaign.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and, you won't hear, obviously, any of this, this is a budget forum, our campaign is definitely, in line with your recommendation. Yeah, we'll make sure it is, So,
I mean, I wonder, because my one neighbor, when I was talking to him about it, he's like, this is a forever tax.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, should you have worded it different, because, I don't know, this is just
yeah, I know,
it's crazy.
yeah.
But I know in my neighborhood, if I'm depending on my neighborhood, this is not gonna pass the way it is right now.
Yeah, and we hear the concerns and we hear your feedback. For us, we do need that lifelong funding. Yeah, if we didn't need it, we wouldn't ask for it. Because the needs of the people we are supporting is just growing. And I believe, and hopefully we can campaign to make sure that people want people with disabilities in our community to be safe, well cared for, and live the life they desire. And that's what Stark County has always been about, and we just have to put it before them and let them tell us.
Do you worry about Medicaid, how everything is crazy
Yeah.
to me.
Right, and I'll just say this, that Medicaid and the support for long-term services and supports has been unscathed to date. So, it certainly is affecting a portion of the population, it just hasn't affected people with disabilities today. Yeah, so,
And I think the hope is that the other half of the population is actually doing quite well. I mean, I've done over 600 tax returns the last couple of years, and from what I see from the people that live in Canton, Ohio, more than half of them are well off. I mean, and I know I'm doing better now than I ever have in my life, so that's why I would gladly vote yes. If it were 10 years ago, yeah, that would be a different story, but, there are people that are thriving.
Karen, do you have a question? Karen?
Oh, no.
No.
Well, I was thinking,
Yeah.
for the waivers, and there's the 3 tiers, is there a set amount of funding per person, or is it just dependent on that, assessment that you do?
So for the self waiver and the level 1 waiver, it's capped at 72.
I think around 70.
Yeah, 72,000, so a person can't go over that on that waiver. The individual option waiver, it doesn't have a ceiling, and it's based on assessed need.
Okay.
Yeah, So it can be 200, 300, 400, 500,000. Yeah. Yes. So that's our story today. We'll be around for questions. I hope you have a great day. I hope this provided some insight.
Bill, you better be on your knees.
Yes, I'm with you. I don't disagree.
You better be on your knees.
I agree. Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah. All right, thank you guys. Yeah.